for those who are politically wise, a show about the lives of Christians in Ohio involved with politics. Introducing your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Greetings, my fellow patriots, saints, and sinners. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. At the end of the show, there will be a blessing. Don't miss it. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Next time you're thinking about beating the train, think again. It takes a typical freight train traveling 50 miles an hour, 1.5 miles to stop. That's nearly 18 football fields. Don't try to beat the train. Ohio's roads can be highways or dieways. The choice is yours. A message from Operation Lifesaver and this station.
The opinions and statements on this show belong to those who give them. The rest of the show belongs to Thomas Wise Words, all rights reserved. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Hello, my listeners. This is Reverend Thomas Wise. The show is called Politically Wise. I am interviewing Jim Burke, Representative Jim Burke, in his office at the State House. Jim, introduce yourself to my listeners. Tell them about yourself.
Well, fine. Thank you. And thanks for the privilege of being able to share some thoughts about our faith together this morning, Pastor. I'm a native of Greenville over on the western border. It's the county seat of Darke County. My family, my great-grandfather moved to Greenville in 1875, and he was an immigrant from Germany, and he was a butcher. And the meat business in my family goes back into Alsace-Lorraine in Europe over 200 years. And so he emigrated over here to be a free man. And he went from New York. He got here with the equivalent of 85 cents American in his pocket. He went to New York, from New York to Pittsburgh to Cincinnati, which in this was in the late 1860s, when Cincinnati was known as Porkopolis, and it was the center of the meatpacking industry. And he worked there for a few years, and then he had a cousin who lived in Greenville, right north, now on US 127, about 75 miles north of Cincinnati. So he moved to Greenville to work with his cousin, and then in 1878 he split off and started a slaughterhouse. And so our family was in that business from 1878 until 2012, a year ago December. So the family was in the meat packing, and then we phased into food distribution, phased out of the processing and packing business into food distribution. And so we were kind of a niche distributor. We were a mom and pop selling mom and pops, independently owned restaurants and groceries and delis, and in about a 150-mile radius from Greenville in both Indiana and Ohio. So just a small family company, but we ended up selling our business in December of 2012 to Cisco Foods in Cincinnati. They approached us a couple of years ago, and they're like so many other companies. They're interested in getting people, and so bottom line is my daughter and son, who were the fifth generation of our family, opt to operate the business, and my son-in-law and most of our associates who were with us now work for Cisco Foods, and so they actually, Cisco wanted every one of our people because they're looking for good people. But so it worked out to be a fair deal, and of course now I will tell you that the only person they didn't want was me, because they figured you hot-air politicians in Columbus, you go peddle your stuff over there. But no, it worked out well, and so that's kind of my, and I myself am a graduate of Greenville High School, and then I went to Wittenberg University in Springfield, and coincidentally my mother, father, two brothers, and several cousins have gone to Wittenberg, so it's been a family tradition. We're members of the Lutheran Church, and of course Wittenberg is a Lutheran university, so we've had some very close ties to the university and so on. So that's my background. Native of Greenville, graduate.
When did you graduate with?
Well, I graduated in 1962 from Wittenberg. I did, with a Bachelor of Science in Business.
Business.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I went over because I started working in our company as a kid when I was a teenager, and like all the other members of the family, at one time there were 5 families involved in the company, and my grandfather and 3 uncles and my father and ours. At one time there were 19 members of the family involved in the company. So I was obviously very much interested in being involved in the business, and that's what I did.
So you worked your way up from sweeping floors to...
Actually, my first job was sticking hogs, and I don't mean putting blue ribbons on them. I mean working on the processing floor. And then I did every job there is in a meatpacking company. That's how you learn it. You learn it from the ground up. That's exactly right, Pastor.
Interesting. So what are you doing here?
Yeah, what am I doing
in
now?
Columbus?
How do I get? Well,
you've been here a while.
Well, yes, I have. Actually, I had no interest in being involved in public service because I was very busy in our company, and in 1980 we had a situation on the school board in Greenville, in which there was a sudden 2 vacancies of the board, and I was approached and was appointed to fill one of those vacancies. And so, I was busy peddling baloney in the company, and all of a sudden I'm on the school board. And so we had some financial considerations that needed attention, and so we took care of those, and we had to make some very drastic business decisions, and they weren't some of those decisions weren't that popular in the community, but they were management decisions and changes that had to take place, and we did them, and to be a solvent school board and financially. And so as a result of that, because I was appointed, that was 1980, and the following year I had because I was appointed, I had to run for election, and so I was elected, and then right after that election, 1981, the 10-year reapportionment was announced for the Ohio House and Ohio Senate seats, as well as the U.S. congressional districts. Every 10 years that the reapportionment and gerrymandering takes place. And so our state representative, a man named Bob Netzley, had served Darke County for so many years, so honorably. His district was moved, and there was this new district created along the Indiana border, Pastor. They included most of Darke County, all of Preble County, and 4 townships, and the city of Oxford, and including Miami University and Butler County. So it was kind of a neat district. It was a very rural farm district in Miami University, and of course those 4 townships in northwest Butler County are what's left basically of agriculture in Butler County. So it was just a really special place, and there was no incumbent. So I had a lot of encouragement to run for the Ohio House of Representatives, and so I did, and was elected in '82. And I served for 9 terms here until 2000, when the voters in 1992 voted to have term limits. And so when that passed, the term limits started in 2000. And so I could not run again for re-election in 2000. And that's when I stepped down. And quite frankly, I never thought that I would be back in an elective office after I left as state rep in December 31st of 2000. But I went on and I was the assistant director of the Ohio Department of Agriculture for 4 years. Governor Taft appointed me to that position, and I was basically in charge of the administration at the department. And then I went to work. I was recruited by the National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB, which many listeners will recognize when they see a little brown and gold sign on the restaurant or a barber shop or so. It's a trade association for small businesses, small and independent family businesses, which I obviously grew up and was part of. And so what I did was I was hired as a Midwest region policy director, and what I did was I traveled 9 upper Midwest states for 2 years, working with our state directors in the capitals, working to pass legislation good for small business and working against legislation and regulations that are detrimental to small business. So I did that for 2 years, and then in 2006, I went back home to Greenville to go back and to be involved with my family in the business. And then I thought that was the end of me in Columbus. And then Governor Kasich was elected in 2010, and his very first cabinet appointment he made after the election was to name State Representative Jim Zeringer as his Director of Agriculture. Now, Jim is from Fort Recovery, which is in the district that I represent now, and so when Jim was appointed to that spot, he had to vacate his House seat. And so I was appointed to fill his term, and then I ran after that term and was elected, and now I'm on the ballot this year again. So it was something that just came out of nowhere. And so here I am back in the legislature, and one of the reasons that I was encouraged to come back is because of the term limit situation. There are not that many members in the legislature who have had lots of experience and with not only the system but knowing the players in the program. And so that was some of the reasons why I was encouraged to come back. And here I am, and I'm enjoying working with my district, the 84th district, and the other 11.5 million citizens of Ohio.
And we will be right back after the break.
Partnership with Liberty Prayer Network. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Council. We'll talk about this next on Freedom's Call. An intercessory prayer ministry has now officially merged with Liberty Council and brought to life the Liberty Prayer Network. Through prayer, we will intercede for the United States, biblically based public policy, and champions of life, liberty, and the family. While praying for our nation, we remain committed to standing with Israel and partnering with those from other nations who uphold religious freedom, the sanctity of human life, and the family. We are enlisting prayer patriots to take a stand in their home states, lifting high the torch of liberty and calling others to worship God and to pray for His blessings. If you would like to join the Liberty Prayer Network, call us today at 1-800-671-1776. That's 800-671-1776. Or visit our website at lc.org.
The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
How does your faith play a role in all this?
Well, my faith is very strong. God blessed me with a lot of talent, and He blessed me with a lot of frailties. We're all sinners.
That's right.
And I never forget that. And I operate on two steps forward, one step backward approach too. And I'm old school. I'm 73 years old, and when I grew up, I was in church and Sunday school every Sunday because Mom and Dad were in church and Sunday school every Sunday. And I learned the Bible, and I learned about my Savior, and that has just been ingrained in me. And so I have tried to live my life according to my faith. And I also am a firm believer that we emulate leaders. And if our leaders lead us in an honest manner with integrity and faith, that the people who are following us will subscribe to that. If I'm immoral, dishonest, a crook, how can I expect the people I work for to be honest? You set the pace. And that's kind of how my faith has taught me. You live your faith. You don't talk about it, you live it, and hopefully people will see that you're doing more right than wrong and want to do some of that.
Do you have a guiding scripture?
Well, yes. It's my guiding scripture. Of course, our motto is "With God, all things are possible," which is, I think, out of Corinthians. My guiding scripture is Matthew, from the 28th chapter of Matthew, the 19th and 20th verses, where we're given the charge to go ye therefore and baptize all nations. And now I've got it messed up, but the bottom line is that God will be with me forever, to the end of the age. Go ye therefore and baptize all members. And so that's what I do. How do we get more people to become Christians and believe? Because this is a Judeo-Christian nation, Pastor. It was founded in 1776, and the signers, I believe 52 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Christians, and the other 4 believed in some form of deity. So that when we're told that, especially today, that we're not a Christian nation, we are. This is a Judeo-Christian nation, and we are also the longest-running free republic in the history of civilization. No other nation has had freedom like you and I have enjoyed for so many years. And my prayer today is that every night when I finish my day and I say my nightly prayers, I end every prayer with, please God, don't ever let us lose the will to keep what so many have fought and died for on our behalf. Freedom. That's what we're about. We're freedom. We're free to live our faith. Think of all the countries where persecution. Look at all the tyranny countries in the world. I mean, we have Christians being slaughtered every day around this world because they live there and are not ashamed to profess their faith. Well, I don't ever want to see that happen here. I'll share with you an example of my life that had a profound impact on my philosophy and how I live my life. As I indicated, I went to Wittenberg University. In 1960, I was a member of the a cappella choir. In 1961, we took a tour of 8 countries in Europe, and we sang several concerts on the tour. And of course, Wittenberg University is named after Wittenberg, which is in East Germany, which is where is the church where Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses, and back in the 1500s. And so we had 4 days. This was 61 when we had East Germany and West Germany, and so we had 4 days scheduled in East Germany after we had been on the west side for a while, and so on. And so we were in West Berlin on a Saturday, and then on a Sunday we went to East Berlin, and it was just like going from, West Berlin was just like Columbus or Dayton or Cincinnati, vibrant, wonderful communities, people bustling, and economy was good and so on. And then you go through to East Berlin, and you had the main drag was Stalin Alley, and you had nice looking stores, and you walk in the store and there'd be potbelly stoves and no merchandise on the shelves, and you had olive drab uniformed policemen with submachine guns on every corner, and people aged beyond their years, poor, and you couldn't go 2 blocks without seeing a memorial to Stalin. And I thought, boy, I don't like this. I don't want to ever have that situation. So we sang our first concert at Marienkirche, St. Mary's Church, on Sunday evening in East Berlin. And after that concert, the German officials came to our leaders and said, you may stay tonight, but tomorrow morning you must leave and go back to the West because your other 3 days are canceled. And so we didn't get a chance to go to Wittenberg and do in the other 3 days. So we did, and our leaders scrambled to fill in those 3 days. But here, the bottom line is this. A week later, on August 7th, 1961, is when the wall opened. And Checkpoint Charlie and East Berlin, and the rest is history. But they were doing us a favor by kicking us out. But that 24-hour period that I spent in East Berlin set forth in stone in my brain that I never want to see that situation happen in the United States of America. It had a profound impact on how I've lived my life.
The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Do you pray for a politician? Do you think a politician can be a Christian? Do you think a politician should stand up for Christian principles? Do you think politicians should pray together? Do you want to see more Christians in politics? If you said yes to any of these questions, please join the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network. Find the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network on Facebook. Welcome back to Politically Wise.
If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise.
How is your district looking?
How's my
economically? How's people?
Well,
are people a lot of people upset with the government, or upset with us, the Columbus here, or prosperity's booming, or usually it's a mixed bag.
God has blessed me in that I live. I'm biased. The 84th House District is as fine a place to live as there is in the world, and here's why. We have a higher percentage of nuclear families where mom and dad are married. They live under the same roof. They have love of God, love of country, love of family. They teach their kids discipline, loyalty, honesty, integrity, hard work. We have, and I give you that as background to tell you that Mercer County, currently the unemployment rate is 3.8%. It has the lowest unemployment rate of any county in Ohio every month, every year. Why? Families. They're families. There is a big group of families of faith. There's a large Roman Catholic population in Mercer, in southern Mercer, and northern Dart County. There's churches everywhere. Mercer County is the land of the cross-tipped steeples. They have Gothic cathedrals. There's 18 of them, I think, in Mercer County. But Mercer, Auglaize, Shelby, Dark, those areas, they're hard-working agricultural people. You heard me say it's the largest ag district in Ohio. The farms pass from generation to generation, and then there are companies that are in that region that are employed by families who provide jobs for the people. And my whole district, if you put it together, Pastor, it's a little over 5% unemployment in the whole district. While that's a percent and a half lower than the state average all the time. And it's because it's families. You come back to families, and I'll guarantee you your economy's going to be better. The kids going to kindergarten, when they hit the front door for first day of kindergarten, they probably had 2 years of chores under their belt. They're taught. Families. Faith.
So, I get back to what are you doing here lately?
What am I doing? Well,
I see you got a few papers on your desk.
I do.
And a few papers in the filing cabinet. Comparatively to it's probably the cleanest room office in the State House.
Yeah, well,
comparatively.
Comparatively. Well, I am not. I'm kind of a below the radar guy. I don't introduce a lot of legislation. I read recently where there's some 35 million laws been passed to enforce the 10 Commandments. How many more do you need? And if we just lived like we should, we wouldn't have all these issues. But set that aside, and let me tell you that in my 22 years here, Pastor, I have a grand total of 8 pieces of legislation that I am the primary sponsor that became law. So that I do not introduce lots of bills to become law. But there's one that I am working on right now that I'm very pro-life. Have always been. I believe that life starts at conception, and that anything to destroy that life is murder after that point. And I'm very pro-life, and I'm also I'm a sponsor right now of House Bill 307, which has passed the House and is in the Senate. And what that bill does is basically speed up the process and lower the cost for couples who want to adopt infants. Currently in Ohio, the time frame and the cost to adopt newborn children is very high to some families that they cannot afford time-wise and money-wise to adopt a child. And there are thousands of couples who can't have children, and they dearly love to rear a child in a loving family atmosphere, and because of those hurdles cannot adopt. So we're trying to make the process more efficient and less costly, and that way we'll save more lives. That's a big issue that I'm working on right now.
So what advice would you have for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps? Someone's listening to this broadcast going, I'd like to, he seems like an okay guy. I think I'm an okay guy. I can run for office.
Well, first thing you have to do is you want to have the right motivation to get involved in public service. Do it, and to me, the right motivation is what can I do to make government better, for whether I want to run for township trustee or the school board or the mayor of the community or state representative or whatever office. I want to run for president. What's my motivation? Is my motivation personal gain, or is my motivation to work hard on the corporate well-being of the constituency that I'm going to represent? I originally got into the business of government because of the effect that government has on business. My family was in business, and it was a very regulated business in producing food, and so I was most interested in the decisions that government makes as it relates to my business. But I mean that from an honorable standpoint. In other words, I wanted to become involved so that I could work hard to make government better. And I've always encouraged people, for example, Pastor, to come to Columbus and visit our state house and learn about state government. And the reason I do that, and that's why I'm so excited when school groups come over here, is because I want the children and the residents to learn about their government, because I believe that the more people know about government, that it's ultimately got a chance to get better. But the converse is, the less we know about it, the worse it'll get. And so I want people to become involved in take a look at public service, whether it be from working in the health department or the courthouse, or working in the state agency, or whatever, in public service, or being involved in an elective office, that the real worth of being in public service is knowing that you're trying to do what you can do to make things better, and not look at it from what can I get personally out of working in government. So I would encourage people of integrity and honesty who want to make government work better for the citizens and to become involved. And then live your faith and lead by example. And the rest of it will come in behind.
Who has that been in your life for you? Who mentored you?
Well, my top mentor was former State Representative Bob Netzley, who encouraged me to run. He was from Laura over in Miami County. And he was an amazing man. He served in the Ohio House for 40 years, and I was just very blessed to know his family and him very well. My other mentor is current Speaker Bill Batchelder. He and I met in 1978, and we became friends, and he has had a profound impact on my public service. My hero is Ronald Reagan, and I'm probably the only one in the listening audience that helped Ronald Reagan by working grassroots to help him get elected as governor of California. I lived in California for 4 years. I worked for a meat company in San Jose, and while I was there, that's where I met my wife. Sharon is a native of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and she was working in California. And we met in church. Our pastor introduced us, and then this was in 1964, and then in 1966, Ronald Reagan ran for governor of California, and we worked hard to help him get elected governor. And then, of course, he served as governor, and then ultimately was elected as president of the United States. And so he is one of my he's one of my heroes, period.
Well, sir, I want to thank you for your time. I've been interviewing Representative Jim Beeke at his office at the State House. The show is called Politically Wise, and I'm your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Thank you for listening today. If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise. Now, here's your blessing.
Blessings based on Psalms chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. May you declare God as Lord. May God keep you safe. May God fill your cup. May God give you a safe home. May God grant you a lovely inheritance. May God deliver you to pleasant places. May God counsel you. May God instruct you. May you be at God's right hand.